What if I told you that everything you experienced in childhood, every moment of feeling different, every unexplainable instinct, every vivid dream, was not random, that it was, in fact, a sign? You have spent years wondering why you never quite fit into the world around you, questioning why you saw things that others ignored, why you felt things more deeply than most. But what if the answer was hidden in plain sight all along? From the very beginning, God set you apart. The world may have told you that your sensitivity was a weakness, that your questioning spirit was unnecessary, that your solitude meant you were alone. But none of that was true. You were never meant to follow the crowd. You were meant to rise above it. You were chosen, even when no one told you. And today, you will finally understand why. Stay with me until the end, because what you are about to hear may change the way you see your entire life. And if this message speaks to your soul, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you never miss another revelation about your divine journey. Now let's begin. 1. A sense of being different from childhood. From the earliest moments of your life, you felt different. While other children ran freely, content with the simple joys of the world, you stood still, watching, observing, feeling something deeper. You couldn't put it into words at the time, but you sensed that life was more than what was in front of you. There was something beyond the ordinary, something unseen yet ever present, whispering to your soul. You tried to ignore it, to blend in, to be like everyone else. But no matter how hard you tried, there was always a quiet knowing within you, a sense that you were not meant to live like the rest. You saw things others didn't see. You noticed the small details, the hidden meanings, the unspoken emotions. Where others took things at face value, you searched for the truth beneath the surface. And then there were the questions, the ones that made adults uncomfortable. While your peers were content with the simple explanations of life, you couldn't stop wondering, why am I here? Why do I feel things so deeply? What is my purpose? You would ask, but instead of answers, you were often met with dismissive smiles or impatient glances. Don't think too much, they would say. Just enjoy life. But you couldn't just enjoy life, not in the way they did. While others followed the patterns set before them, you sensed something was missing. A hidden thread woven into reality, something calling to you beyond what your eyes could see. And deep down, despite your confusion, you felt as if you were placed here for a reason. At times, you questioned whether there was something wrong with you. Why did you feel so out of place? Why did the world seem to operate in a way that didn't make sense to you? Why did you long for something greater, something more? But now, looking back, you realize that this feeling of being different was never a mistake. It was a sign. God set you apart from the beginning. He placed in you a deeper awareness, an ability to see beyond what is obvious. And while the world tried to convince you that this was a burden, it was, in fact, a calling, a divine preparation for the purpose He has for your life. And this was only the beginning. 2. An unexplainable spiritual sensitivity. From a young age, you felt things on a level that others couldn't comprehend. While most people moved through life unaware, you sensed something deeper beneath the surface, an unspoken language written in emotions, in atmospheres, in the spaces between words. It was as if the world around you carried an invisible weight, and you could feel it pressing against your soul. There were moments when you would step into a room and instantly know something was off, even before anyone spoke. You could sense when someone was burdened, even when they smiled. You noticed shifts in energy, how a place could feel warm and inviting one moment, but cold and heavy the next. And often, you couldn't explain why. Certain people pulled at your spirit in ways you didn't understand. Some felt like home, even though you had just met them. Others made you uneasy, despite their kind words and friendly faces. You didn't just hear what people said. You felt what they weren't saying. Their pain, their struggles, their hidden grief. It was as if their emotions lived inside you, as if their burdens became your own. And that was the hardest part. While others could brush off negativity and move on, you carried it. The weight of the world seemed to settle on your shoulders, and you didn't know how to release it. A simple conversation with someone in distress could leave you emotionally drained for hours. Crowds could feel suffocating. Chaotic environments left you exhausted in ways you couldn't explain. At times, you wondered if something was wrong with you. Why did you feel so much? Why did you carry emotions that weren't even yours? Why couldn't you simply move through life unaffected, like everyone else seemed to? But now, you need to understand. This was not a flaw. It was never a weakness. It was a gift. God gave you a heart that could feel deeply, a spirit sensitive to the unseen. You weren't meant to ignore it. You were meant to use it. This sensitivity was proof that you were connected to something greater, that your soul was in tune with divine realities most people never perceive. Yes, it was exhausting. Yes, it often felt overwhelming. But it was also a sign, one of the clearest signs, that you were chosen for something far beyond the ordinary. And as you will soon see, this was only one part of a much greater revelation. Third, divine warnings and dreams that felt real. There were nights when you closed your eyes, only to step into a world that felt just as real as the one you lived in. Dreams that were too vivid to be mere imagination. Places you had never seen yet somehow recognized, voices speaking words you could not forget. And then, days, weeks, or even years later, something would happen. An event, a conversation, a place, and you would feel it deep in your spirit. I have seen this before. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't just your mind playing tricks on you. It was something far greater. Since childhood, you have had dreams that carried meaning beyond what your mind could comprehend. Some were filled with warnings, an unshakable feeling that something was about to happen. Others revealed moments before they came to pass, as if time itself had bent to show you what was to come. And then there were dreams that left you with a lingering presence, as if God Himself had whispered into your soul. You tried to brush it off. Society tells us that dreams are nothing more than fragments of our subconscious, random images with no real meaning. But deep down, you knew better. There were times when you woke up with a name, a phrase, or a vision so strong that it stayed with you for days. And when life unfolded exactly as you had seen it, you couldn't deny that something beyond your understanding was at work. And then there was déjà vu, that strange, almost eerie sense that you had been somewhere before, even though you knew it was impossible. You would step into a place, hear a conversation, or meet a person, and something in your spirit would stir. It wasn't just familiarity, it was recognition, as if your soul already knew what your mind had yet to understand. These experiences were never random. They were divine messages. God speaks in many ways, and for those He has chosen, dreams and visions are often the first signs of a greater calling. The Bible is filled with stories of those who received divine revelations in their sleep. Joseph, Daniel, even the wise men who were warned in a dream to flee from Herod. And if you have experienced this, it means He has been speaking to you too. Perhaps you didn't always understand the meaning of these dreams. Perhaps you doubted yourself. But now, you must see the truth. You were never imagining things. God has been guiding you all along. And as we move forward, you will see that His hand has been over your life in ways you never even realized. Fourth, unseen protection and guidance from God. There were moments in your life when danger was near, times when things could have gone terribly wrong, but somehow they didn't. Maybe it was a near accident that you avoided at the last second. Maybe it was a sudden change of plans that kept you from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or maybe it was an unexplainable feeling, a strong pull in your spirit that told you to go left when you were about to go right. At the time, you may have dismissed it as luck or coincidence, but now, looking back, you realize it was something far greater. It was the unseen hand of God. Many times in your life, you made choices that didn't make sense in the moment, decisions that felt sudden, almost instinctive, yet later proved to be life-changing. You met the right person at just the right time. You took an opportunity that led to unexpected blessings, or you avoided something that, in hindsight, would have brought you harm. You weren't following your own understanding. You were being led. In your darkest moments, when you felt lost and alone, something always seemed to bring you back. A door opened when you had lost hope. A kind word was spoken at just the right moment. A solution appeared when you thought there was no way out. You didn't see it then, but now you know. You were never truly alone. God has been guiding you all along. The Bible reminds us in Psalm 91:11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." If you are chosen, you are protected. Even when you weren't aware of it, his presence surrounded you. His hand moved things in ways you couldn't comprehend, ensuring that you remained on the path he had set for you. How many times have you narrowly escaped something disastrous? How many moments in your life seemed like chance, yet when you look back, you see divine intervention? God's protection is not always loud or obvious. It is often subtle, a whisper, a gentle nudge, an unseen shift in circumstances. But it is real. And now, as you begin to see the patterns, as you recognize the way he has been working in your life, you must ask yourself, if he has brought you this far, what is he preparing you for next? Because the journey is not over. He is leading you towards something even greater. Fifth, spiritual connections that defy logic. There have been moments in your life when you met someone for the first time, yet it felt as though you had known them forever. It wasn't just familiarity, it was recognition, a deep, unspoken connection, as if your spirits had crossed paths long before your minds could comprehend it. You may have tried to explain it, but words never seemed enough. The truth is, this was never just chance. These encounters were divinely orchestrated. At pivotal moments in your journey, the right people have appeared, mentors, friends, even strangers, who spoke the exact words you needed to hear. They showed up when you were lost, discouraged, or uncertain. And somehow, their presence shifted something within you, helping you take the next step forward. These were not random meetings. They were appointments set by God before you ever knew you needed them. Then there are places, certain locations that pull at your spirit, stirring something deep within you. You've stepped into spaces and felt an overwhelming sense of belonging, as if you were meant to be there. Maybe it was a church, a city, a distant land you had never visited yet somehow knew. Or perhaps it was a mission, a calling that felt so familiar, it was as if your soul had been preparing for it long before you were aware. These moments, these connections, were never coincidences. They were signs. God weaves divine connections throughout our lives. The Bible is full of stories of people whose paths crossed for a greater purpose. Moses and Joshua, Elijah and Elisha, Mary and Elizabeth. In Proverbs 16:9, we are reminded, "The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps." Every person he brings into your life serves a role, some to guide you, others to teach you, and some to remind you that you are never truly alone. Think back on your life. How many times has someone entered it at the perfect moment? How often have you found yourself drawn to something that later became a crucial part of your purpose? These are not accidents. They are evidence of a higher plan, a path laid before you long ago. And now, as you begin to recognize these divine connections, you must ask yourself, where is God leading you next? because nothing he does is without purpose, and the road ahead is waiting for you to walk it. 6. A lifetime of being set apart. There were times in your life when you felt completely alone, even in a room full of people. Conversations felt shallow, connections felt incomplete, and no matter how much you tried to fit in, something within you resisted. It wasn't that you didn't love others, you did, but there was always a distance, a quiet space between you and the rest of the world, a lingering feeling that you were somehow different. You watched as others seemed perfectly content with the things that never satisfied you. While they pursued what the world called success, your heart longed for something deeper. While they lived without questioning, you wrestled with truths that no one else seemed to notice. And when you tried to express what you felt, the world responded with confusion, sometimes even rejection. So you withdrew, not because you wanted to, but because you had to. There were seasons when God pulled you away, removing you from distractions, from relationships, from places that no longer aligned with the person He was shaping you to be. At times, it felt like a punishment. You questioned why you couldn't just be like everyone else. Why couldn't you enjoy what others did? Why did your spirit reject what others embraced so easily? But now you must see the truth. This was never about rejection. It was about preparation. Throughout Scripture, God set apart those He called. Moses was drawn away into the wilderness before leading his people to freedom. Joseph was isolated in prison before stepping into his destiny. Jesus himself withdrew into the desert before stepping into his ministry. Isolation was never abandonment, it was transformation. God has been doing the same with you. The solitude, the loneliness, the feeling of being out of place. It was never about keeping you from something. It was about preparing you for something greater. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to stand apart. John 15:19 says, "If you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you." You were chosen, and those who are chosen are always set apart. So now the question remains, what has God been preparing you for? Because all of this, every moment of solitude, every unanswered question, every time you felt unseen, was leading you to something far greater than you ever imagined. And the time is coming for you to step into it. The moment of revelation. Now, as you look back at your life, can you see it? Can you recognize the signs? The moments when you felt different, when you sensed something greater, when you heard the quiet call within your soul? These were never coincidences. They were divine markers, placed throughout your life to remind you of who you truly are. The times you felt like an outsider were not because you were broken, but because you were chosen. The sensitivity you carried was not a burden, but a gift. The dreams, the warnings, the guidance, the divine connections, all of it was God working in your life, preparing you for a purpose beyond anything you could have imagined. For so long, the world tried to convince you that these experiences were just your imagination. But deep down, you always knew the truth. You were set apart. You were never meant to follow the path of the many. You were called to walk the road of the few. Matthew 22:14 says, "For many are called, but few are chosen." If you are here, if these words are stirring something inside you, it is because you are one of the chosen. And now, the choice is in your hands. You can ignore this calling, continue as if nothing has changed, and go back to life as it was before. Or you can embrace it. You can step fully into your divine purpose, allowing God to lead you to the destiny He has prepared for you. But understand this. Once you awaken, you cannot go back to sleep. Once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. The signs will only grow stronger. The pull on your spirit will only deepen, and the time will come when you must decide. Will you follow the path God is laying before you, or will you turn away? If this message resonated with you, it is because you were meant to hear it at this exact moment. This is not a coincidence. This is your sign. Now I want to hear from you. How many of these signs have you recognized in your life? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share it with them. If you are ready to continue this journey of awakening, subscribe to this channel now, because what comes next will reveal even deeper truths about the calling on your life. God has already chosen you. Now, it's time for you to step forward.